All right, are you guys able to see my screen by chance?
Yes, sir.
All right,
Yes,
perfect.
sir.
All right, so we're going to kind of go through my Canvas. Everybody should have my class. This is going to be the platform for which you are going to complete assignments. Any information that I have for you, I can upload onto Canvas, and kind of like a follow along as we go through this first semester of class in regards to my class. So on my home screen, I kind of have it laid out by week. Obviously, any of these are links that will take you to certain things under that week. Like if I was to select Get Started, it's going to tell me welcome to the course number. I can actually look at the syllabus, which we will do here shortly, and it gives us a description of the course. When we get into like the actual curriculum itself, obviously this is week 1, so we're just doing introductions and everything tonight. Week 2, so next week we were going to start break into chapter 15, which is airway management and ventilation. What you'll notice about paramedic class is that we teach you a lot of the skills before you have all the knowledge. And the reason we do that is to get you into the clinical and field experience early. That way you can learn the curriculum as you're doing clinical and fields, and you might be able to understand some of that stuff, which that comes at a little bit later date. But so let's just say week 2, airway management and ventilation. I can click that link. It will then take me to an overview for the whole week. A description of what's going to be covered with airway management and ventilation, to-do list. So obviously chapter 15, I don't expect you to read the whole chapter. I'm not somebody that can read information and retain it. Participate in the online lecture, complete the assignments as required. I don't have any assignments posted as of now, but as we go into the chapters, if I feel there will be something beneficial to you guys, then I will absolutely do that. And I will give you the means to complete it. All my assignments and all my exams are open book. The reason for that is because I believe it's important for you to understand where to find the information. And even going through the book, if there's something you don't understand, I'd rather you be able to look it up and kind of read a little bit about it and then answer the question, as opposed to just answering a question blindly. You'll also be able to view the PowerPoint lectures that I have for that week. It won't be the recorded lectures or anything. It's just strictly the PowerPoint file that we will be covering that week. Like I know airway management and ventilation, I think is just a little over 300 slides, but we're doing it over 3 weeks. So we're going to spend maybe 100 slides a week going through airway management and ventilation. So that way it's not too taxing on you guys, because it is a pretty long chapter. I will create a link, and I'll actually create it probably later tonight or tomorrow for recorded lectures under week 15, which you can just click onto, and I will have all the lectures updated there by the date. So that way you can just, if you wanted to, click it and watch it. I usually upload them to YouTube and give you the specific link to it. It's not a public channel or anything like that. It's just that you have to have that link to be able to watch any of the lectures. And that way, towards the end of the semester, if you want to review something, you're more than welcome to look back on it. You can see week 5, we have exam, and then week 15, we have exam. And then we have an exam in between those as well. What that means is that for week 5, we won't have any lecture or anything that night. We will strictly be taking an exam. But you will use the class time to do it. And it's very much like we do for the in-person class as well. And then week 15 is going to be your final exam. So that's why I want to make sure you have enough time to do that. I will always give you guys enough time to complete your exam. I'm not going to cut you short or anything like that. And we will do it during class time. I won't make you do it outside of this, because this is the time you have dedicated to this class, in my opinion. Are there any questions over just the home page, the welcome page? This is what, essentially when you log in, click into my course, this is what you will see. Okay. The syllabus for this course, you can read it if you want to. It's basically just going to give you general information about the course, the nights that it is held. We are slotted for 6 to 9 p.m. That does not mean we will stay till 9 p.m. every night. If we get done in an hour and a half, we get done in 2 hours, so be it. As long as we cover what was scheduled for that night, I am fine with it. Office hours for you guys, it's really not essentially pertinent, but those are generally the hours that I'm in the office outside of class. I do respond really quickly to emails to my MCHS email, so that's probably going to be the easiest way and best way to get a hold of me. Some of the prerequisites to the course, outcomes for each chapter. If you want to go through those, you're more than welcome to. I'm not going to go through every single one tonight. Our grading scale, as well as expectations of you guys, any Mercy College policies, and a schedule. You will see exam 2, like I said, is October 25th. I have that scheduled. So what that means is that we will get through principles of pharmacology pretty quickly that night, and then I will give you time to take your exam at the end of it. If you select the modules section, this is really just those links, week 1, week 2, week 3. This is just them on one page, essentially. It's just the overviews. The getting started, the welcome to the course, you will have to review course policies and expectations, and you will have to acknowledge my syllabus. That is the only assignment that I have as of right now. You can find the easy way to get my email address and to contact me is if you click on the Meet Your Instructor. You'll see a little bio that they pulled off the Mercy College website. But the big part of this is that you will find my email address. So that's the best way to get a hold of me. And like I said, I respond pretty quickly. Assignments, when I get those created, they will show up here. I will also send you guys an email. If there is an assignment that's created, I'm not going to just put it on here and not tell you guys about it. So as of right now, the only assignment there is to complete is the acknowledge the course syllabus and policy. I don't believe in assignments that aren't beneficial to you. So if I assign you something, it's because I think it'll actually do you good, such as like when we get into anatomy and physiology, it could be, parts of the heart and labeling them, parts of the respiratory system and labeling them, like a worksheet or something like that you could either print and fill out, or you can fill it out online and send it to me. Either one doesn't matter to me. Grades, I'm not going to click it because it'll show, well, I guess nobody has any grades for anything now, but it'll generally show just your grade for exams, your grade for any assignments, so that way you can follow along. I do update this as assignments and everything are completed. As exams are completed, it will auto fill in with your exam scores. Chat feature, I've honestly never used. I think it's to talk to other people in this class. To be honest, if I have to chat with you guys about something, I usually do it over Teams. Teams is a pretty good platform. You can make phone calls on Teams. You can send text messages on Teams without having the person's phone number or anything like that. That's why I don't give out my personal cell phone number, but you can call me on Teams when it comes to my cell phone. If like the Student Success Center, so if you need any information on like tutoring or anything like that, I can get that for you, or you can follow the Student Success Center link, which will also give you the same opportunities and avenues that I would. And then a link, obviously, to access your email should you need to put it on your phone or anything like that. I would say have a means of getting to your email kind of quickly or readily accessible, just so that way you can respond to emails that I might send out or anything that I might be updating or anything of that nature. So that's the general layout of my course on Canvas. There's nothing really to it. It's pretty simple, pretty easy to navigate. Like I said, I will put another link at the bottom here for recorded lectures, and I will do that after tonight, after we get done with this lecture. And if you guys have any trouble navigating through any of this, please ask me questions, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. Some general things about paramedic school, some advice. If I could give you guys advice, there's probably five things that I would really hit on. One being, don't lie about anything. When it comes to documentation, when it comes to completing assignments, turning in an assignment late or anything like that, just be truthful, be honest. I'm an understanding person. I get it. You guys have full-time jobs on top of paramedic school. I get it. During class, you might be on call and have to leave. I 100% understand it, just as long as you're keeping up. Number 2 is be humble. what you'll find out during paramedic school is that you get so much knowledge and you get so much information, and I mean, you really start to build your EMS profile as a paramedic. You finish paramedic school, you think there's everything there is to know, and then you're humbled by something really bad that happens that you weren't prepared for. Be humble all the way throughout paramedic school because it will benefit you. When we start getting into clinicals and ride times, making sure that you're humble to your preceptors, that you're humble about your position, that you're humble as a student will truly, truly benefit you. The other one is studying. Find a way that works for studying for you guys. Yeah, we're going to go through PowerPoints, but that's not going to cover everything in those chapters. It's going to cover the main points, but there's no way that I would be able to cover all the information that is outlined in each single chapter. I can't read and retain information. I found it useful when I went through paramedic school. I watched videos on YouTube. I took, different exams that I found online. I found different study material online, which by all means, it help you out. I will also post some, if I think it is a helpful video pertaining to the chapter we're going through, I will also post those on Canvas for you guys to maybe review. And another big one is make sure that you're putting in effort, because this is very much an adult learning course. I can't sit here, especially over a computer, and just spew knowledge and you guys automatically retain it. You are going to have to work for it. Paramedic school is what it is because it is rough. You guys know that. Paramedic school is tough. It takes a year. There's a lot of clinical hours. There's a lot of field hours. There's a lot of requirements that you have to meet. That's part of being a paramedic, and that's part of what makes us is that we spend so much time in education and disciplining ourselves to complete all these tasks during paramedic school that it really makes us what we are. A paramedic isn't made by their skills. I can literally teach a monkey how to start an IV, or I can teach a monkey how to intubate somebody. I can't teach a monkey how to. It's just something I can't do. That's something that comes with time. That's something that comes with knowledge. That's something that comes with practicing, going through field evaluations, going through clinical evaluations, and really trying to better yourself. And you guys will understand during the course how much you're going to change, because now as an EMT, when you write a patient care report, it's probably not as detailed as what it's going to be 6 months from now when we start going through assessments, when we start going through report writing, because you guys are going to have to document everything. And you'll get to see a progression of what you were when you came into the program compared to what you are halfway through the program. It's rough. Every student I know at some point wonders, is it worth it? Should I give up? Should I quit? Every paramedic will tell you, stick with it. It's worth it in the end. Don't waste a year of your life to not pass at the end. Put in your effort, because when you get into it is what you're going to get out of it as well. I take pride in the fact that I work for Mercy now full time. I got out of the field full time for no other reason than I get thorough enjoyment with watching paramedics pass their national registry and putting good paramedics on the street. I still work part-time in the field, so I try to bring in some real world situations as well when we start going into our lectures and talking about real patients that I've had, which benefits you guys as well. I am a huge cardiology nerd. I'm a huge cardiology guru. I love anything with hearts. So obviously I teach the cardiology section. Another thing is ask questions. If there's something you don't understand, ask about it. If you don't want to ask in front of everybody, that's fine. Shoot me an email and we'll set up a time to get together to maybe do a one-on-one call, go over something, because I don't know what you need work on if you don't tell me. Otherwise, we just keep on trucking. First semester of paramedic school is the fun semester. This is where you're learning how to do IVs. This is where you're learning how to intubate, perform IOs, all the skills that we think makes a paramedic what it is. Second semester gets a little rough. Third semester is the downhill slide. Third semester is fairly easy. What makes paramedic school hard isn't the curriculum. It is the hours that you are dedicating towards clinical and field time, and dedicating the amount of time towards your education. The hybrid class that we have here is nice, just for the simple fact that you can do this from home, you can do this from work, and then the skills portion obviously is going to be in person, but it does work in your guys' benefit if you let it. It's going to be as difficult as you make it or as easy as you make it. So what I kind of do, at least what I did for the day class, I've got like 10 minutes before my computer tries to restart, was really open it up to questions for you guys. I know the day class actually had a pretty good amount of questions for me. And it could be anything, not just this course related, anything with paramedic school in general, things you've heard, rumors I can dispel, things you're not 100% sure on, whatever it might be. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you guys have for you. And you don't have to raise your hand or anything like that. You can just start talking.
Who do I speak to for finding out where I can do my clinicals and stuff?
So where do you live? Where do you live around?
I'm in Algona.
Okay. So it's pretty easy. We have clinical and field contracts set up throughout the state. If there's somewhere we don't have a contract with, then I basically say to the student, like, hey, I need to know the place you're wanting to perform time, especially if it's a smaller community hospital or an EMS service, because I have to get in contact with them and get a contract established. Some of the smaller hospitals aren't going to have the units that we do at larger hospitals. So for some of those specialized clinical sites, you might have to end up driving to a larger hospital just for those. But if it's like majority of our time is going to be spent in the ER, you can do those in absolutely any hospital. I would just need the information for the site so I can get a hold of somebody.
Okay, so I can just email you that info?
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
Rudy, how do you?
I'm gonna stop screen sharing so I can turn my camera back on. All right, who? I know you guys had a couple different questions. There were two different people trying to talk.
I'll go ahead. This is more pertaining, I think, just to me, but for the week 5 class, I will have work and won't be here for the test time.
Okay.
Would I be able to take that test earlier in the day before 6 p.m.? Or
we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Okay.
We'll work something out if you're at work. But yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. A lot of times what I'll generally do during test days is I will actually open the exam up at 8 a.m. and people that want to get it done early that can, and I'll usually leave it open till midnight. So that way you have the whole day. If you have nothing to do, you can take the exam early and that leaves your night for class free. But for some people, taking it during class time works best, but generally I open it up pretty early in the morning.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Rudy, my question was a little bit more general. I was going to ask, and we can push this to the end of class if it's more pertinent then, but just how you've seen the paramedic scope like widen, and like how beyond just the the general, like we understand like paramedics working for fire stations, for EMS stations, but how you see EMS kind of widening and where you think it's going, and like different job opportunities that open up as paramedic.
Sure. That's actually a really good question. I work for a couple different fire departments, and anybody that works for a fire department might hate that I say this, but we're kind of shifting away from the fires and going more towards EMS, and we're more or less an EMS department that runs the occasional fire at this point, when we used to be the opposite. And what I'm noticing in this, just the trends for EMS in general, not just paramedic, but EMT, advanced EMT, paramedic, you're starting to see contract jobs open up a lot more, overseas contracts. You're starting to see paramedics being used in places they weren't used before. Hospitals, even Mercy Hospital now hires paramedics in the ER, and they essentially function as a nurse. I think that it really depends on the area. You know, there's areas such as New Orleans, Miami, in Miami, Florida, that they have physicians that drive around in fly cars that assist the paramedics if it's something really critical. So they will ride in with the paramedics. But you'll also see some places where paramedics are drawing labs in the back of an ambulance. I know there's a place down south that is testing out imaging with ambulances and being able to perform abdominal scans and ultrasound. So our scope, I wouldn't say it's so much of our scope broadening, but it's more of our knowledge and technological advances that we are seeing within EMS. And again, I'm a fire-based person. I've worked private EMS. I worked for county-based. I worked hospital-based. I've worked all types, every single type of EMS you can think of. I really enjoyed working in a hospital, especially when I worked in an emergency department and got to run calls as well. I was in charge of training at a couple different departments in regards to EMS. So I think that you'll start to see, I wouldn't say the scope broaden, but I think you're going to start to see EMS people, professionals, if you will, used a lot more in places that they normally wouldn't be, just because we're seeing shortages in other healthcare professions, and a lot of people are realizing, a lot of organizations are realizing just how valuable paramedics are, and really what extent of knowledge that we do carry that goes above and beyond just riding in the back of an ambulance. If that kind of answers it. It's kind of a broad answer, but. All right.
Okay, Rudy.
Yeah.
You talked YouTube video, app, things like that as additional methods for studying.
Yep.
Any specific ones you like or that you've seen or you think have good content to it?
I wouldn't say any specific ones. So basically what I would do is, let's pick a topic here. The lower airway disorders. I would essentially just go to YouTube, go to the search bar and type in EMS lower airway disorders, and I would just scroll through the videos. I'd watch one, and they're generally not very long because they're down and dirty to what you need to know. But there's not one in particular as far as that I like better than another. And if I find, like, if it's something that I think is difficult, because there are going to be things that, like when we go through pathophysiology, anatomy, that I think videos would be beneficial. I have those videos, and I will post those on Canvas for you guys so that you can refer back to them. And I'll try to post stuff like that or email stuff out like that so that you have those resources if I think it's a pretty pertinent video. But as far as a certain organization or a certain instructor, I can't say necessarily that I have one that I follow more than the other.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Somebody had asked in the chat about finding the schedule for Saturday skill sessions. I will have Cheryl send that out in the morning. She has that schedule. I don't, but I will have her send it out for you. Specific uniform for clinical and field. Yes. It's essentially the uniform that Mercy requires. It is a forest green polo. We usually get them from Valley West Uniforms out in Clive, outside the Des Moines Metro here, and then black or blue EMS pants, and then a Mercy student badge. If you're not from this area, we actually will either mail those badges to you, or like Mason City, when we come up there, we'll bring those badges. But for you, those of you in Clinton, we'll mail them out to the department.
So who do we contact to get the polos?
That's a good question, since if you're not from around here, let me find out that information. I'll send an email out tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
Let me write that down so I don't forget it.
Hey, can I add just a small comment on the polos?
Yep.
I generally wear a medium more times than not as a large, like in a Gildan shirt. When I went and got the polo, I'm wearing extra small.
Oh, wow.
And swimming small.
I think I did hear they were really big.
It's definitely big.
All right. I've got 2 minutes before my computer restarts. Like I said, I'm going to hop back in the meeting as soon as my computer updates and restarts. Is there any questions I can answer relatively quickly? Actually, I'm going to see if I can grab my personal computer, so give me 1 second.
Hey, Joe, Tori, or Calvin. So I'm doing my skills stuff down in Clinton with you guys. Do you have any instructions or any certain place I should go when I come down?
So they'll all take place at Central Fire Station, which you'll find that online pretty easy. And then when you get there, the door will most likely be locked. So just ring the bell and tell somebody you're there for skills, and they'll direct you to our training room.
Okay, thanks. And we are planning on Thursday at 6, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Cool.
All right, I'm back. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, sir.
Sure. All right, perfect. All right. So yeah, what like I said, tonight's just really answering questions, providing the insight that I can on anything. Clinical and field stuff won't start. You won't start any rotations for honestly a couple months. Early November, late October. We do have like a clinical and field orientation prior to clinical and field, where I give you as much information as possible, and we go over our clinical and field handbook. So don't worry about anything clinicals or field right now. You do have to complete your Castle Branch. It's a pain in the. We're being recorded, so I'm not going to cuss. It's a pain to get done. I understand that. If you guys are having any issues, shoot me an email, or actually, yeah, shoot me an email with the issue that you're having. I don't have the option to override anything. I know somebody at Mercy does, and I can try to track down who that is, because I know we've had a couple issues already with Castle Branch. So if you guys run into any issues, let me know specifically as to what's going on and what the issue is, and I will try to get you in touch with the right person in that case. As far as me being an instructor, I'm probably the most laid-back person you'll ever have. I don't like to toot my own horn and say I'm extremely smart or anything like that. I've just been in a lot of bad experiences with EMS, which has made me a pretty competent paramedic. What I'm not competent in, I'm confident in, which means that no matter what, even if I've never done something before, I make it look like I've done it 1,000 times. One of the famous things I always say is I try to act like a duck. So on the surface, I'm gliding. I look calm and cool as a cucumber. Underneath, my legs are flapping like hell because I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And that's something that I hope I can instill in you guys as well. It's an honor to be an instructor for another paramedic class. I applaud all of you for wanting to go through this, even if your job is requiring it. You could have just found a different job. It's a journey, and it's honestly, I'm still really good friends with the people that I went through paramedic class with. You know, and they've went on to become lieutenants, chiefs at different departments. So you really get to see the transformation from with your classmates and with yourself from what you were to what you will become. And then if you choose to further your education, such as critical care paramedic, flight medic, any of those specialty certifications, you absolutely can. And it's a good pathway to lead into like a PA school or be a physician or nursing school or something like that. Any other questions? I guess what else do you guys got for me? Quentin put in the chat, Valley West Uniforms does ship. So I think you can call them or visit their website and purchase them. I'm more of a guy that I want to call just to make sure we got everything correctly. But again, they'll know what it is. It's forest green polo with the Mercy logo on the front.
What's the most common mistake that students make?
Oh gosh, not keeping up on documentation. And honestly, that can hurt you more than anything, because that documentation could be the difference between you graduating on time or you having to do a whole nother month of clinical and field. I have students from the last class that didn't save their documentation or didn't save their patients or didn't have them written down, or honestly just kind of got lazy. And it's hurting them now to the point that they're going to have to go do additional clinicals and make up those hours because they don't know where their documentation is and they lost it. When it comes to documentation for lab, for your guys' skill sessions, when we get into clinical and field and everything, it is vital that you guys document that as quickly as possible, just to make sure it's done complete. I tell everybody there's no excuse why you can't document your runs when you're running with an EMS service or a fire department, because the medic has to document his. That should give you time to document yours. Now, if you're at a department that runs 30 calls in 24 hours, that's maybe a different story. You might have to do it the day after or something like that. But documentation is huge. And I think another thing is people come into this thinking that all the information is just going to come to them. It's really not. You have to work for it. Some people it does. Some stuff just comes naturally. But other stuff, you got to ask questions and you have to really put yourself into it to get the end result of becoming a paramedic.
Rudy, what do you think is a good way to be as, I know this is kind of a field question and a ride time question, but like for us to get like our practical skills down, what do you think is the most helpful for us to have down pat when it comes to being in our clinicals and field time?
As far as skills, is that what you're saying?
As far as skills, to like be able to really be a part of the calls and like be helpful.
The honest to God truth is your ability to look at what the patient is presenting with, bring into account their history, what's going on with them, and try and make a differential diagnosis based off that. The skills of starting IVs, great. The skills of performing intubations, IOs, all that, yeah, that's important. But that really honestly comes with just doing it so much. That becomes muscle memory. And during your clinical and field rotations, you'll start, I'm not kidding you, hundreds of IVs. You'll push hundreds of drugs. Drawing out medication will become second nature to you, to the point that you don't even think about it. You just do it when you pull the medication out of the drug box. I think that really your ability to break down what's potentially going on with the patient is probably the most valuable thing, especially when you're riding somewhere or you're in a ER or whatever unit it is. And some of the units are ICUs where you're probably not doing skills, but you're with really sick patients. And being able to look at what body systems are involved and think back to anatomy and physiology and what do you think is going on with this patient? Why do we do this? Because of that. We teach you the skills and stuff early on, but we don't teach you the why. We start to teach you the why in second semester, and then in third semester, at some point, there's just like an aha moment, like a light bulb clicks, and you're like, oh my God, we do this because of that. That makes sense. You never probably understood it as an EMT, but then you're like, oh, holy cow, like that makes sense now. That's the ability to really try and figure out what's wrong with your patients. We're not I hate the term cookbook medics who just sit there and read a protocol book and that's all they do. Really treating your patient, looking at what's wrong with them and trying to treat them based off of what you have available. I mean, we can't play God. To some point, we're not going to, I hate to say this, but we're not going to save everybody. But it's doing the best that we can for our patients, because our assessment is going to turn into what care do we provide for them and what's best for our patient at that time. And that's really going to be change their outcome potentially. Good question, though. Somebody had asked in the chat, does Mercy use all the Metro hospitals or just Mercy and Mercy West? The big three that we're using, that we have the ability to use, obviously Methodist, Mercy, Mercy West. Lutheran and those hospitals generally won't take take students just because they don't have the capacity for the amount of patients that some of the larger hospitals do. I think we do have contracts with them, but a lot of times when I reach out to them, they won't. They won't schedule the students there, or they just don't have the option to pull the student in there. But really, as long as there's a contract, we have the ability to send anybody anywhere. If for some reason you have to leave class, maybe you have to go on a call or something like that. Again, I understand that. I get that. That's why I record this. You can watch it later. But I ask that you do watch it later, because if I say there's an assignment in the middle of class and you don't get that assignment done and you say, well, I went on a call, well, that's still your responsibility to watch the lecture, and that's still your responsibility to get the assignment done then. Typical hours for clinical or ride times. Clinical hours are generally, especially Metro hospitals, are 8-hour shifts. You can do overnights as well. Ride times, it varies. If it's a service that you know of, or maybe one that you work at, you can ride as a student, but you can't be a employee when you're riding as a student. You have to be off the clock. Generally, those are 12-hour shifts. Some places do allow 24s, but they're far and few between. But generally, 12-hour shifts for field shifts. I'm looking back through the chat real quick, just to see if I missed anything. Nope, no other questions. So like I said, if you guys have any questions after the fact, which I'm sure somebody might, feel free to shoot me an email or shoot me a message on Teams. Give me a day to respond, just because if I'm not at the college teaching, I'm generally teaching somewhere else for the college. So I might not always be right next to my computer, although I do take my computer home to respond to emails and to manage courses and everything like that. So just give me a little bit of time. If you respond, I'm probably not going to respond in the hour unless I'm in my email that second, but I will generally respond within 24 hours. How many clinical and ride time hours needed for the entire semester? We'll go through that in about a month. Through the whole program, it's right around 500 hours in a year. When I went through, it was 1,000, I think 1,000, 1,100 something hours like that. So the hours have been significantly reduced, and you guys are the first paramedic class under a new standard, which we are overseen by for educational standards in regards to skills requirements and competencies. You guys actually have a reduced number as compared to what the class did last year. So it's a lot less than what we were having to do in prior years, which actually works in your guys' favor. But we'll get into that when we go through our clinical and field orientation. What other questions? All right, if you guys don't have any questions for me, it's almost 7 o'clock. Like I said, tonight was just an introduction. I'm excited to teach this class. I really enjoy this class because it's really what kicks off your paramedic education, your career as paramedic students. What we will have to do when we go through, for those of you that are Thursday night skills lab, we're going to go ahead and register for the Amanda portal. As a EMS student, I will probably email instructions out to everybody on how to do that as well. So if you're not in a skills session in Des Moines, that way you can still get it completed because you will have to register with the state as a student. There is no fee to pay or anything like that when you register as a student, and you do have to do it through your login. A lot of times people don't remember their login because they rarely get into that. So you might have to reset your password or something like that. But again, I will send those out in instructions to everybody. If you don't have any questions for me, it was an honor and pleasure to meet all you guys. I look forward to next Tuesday night, for getting into our first lecture, Airway Management, breaking into chapter 15 and kind of starting that whole process. Somebody had asked, where are we meeting for Thursday night skills? Here in Des Moines, our address is 921 6th Avenue. We're on the corner of 6th and Crocker if you're heading north towards Mercy Hospital. We're in the lower level. There's a basement level that goes down a couple stairs. You do have to park across the street in the parking lot because there's no parking in our parking lot. And then there's a sliding door, and there will be instructions on how to get to us. Our classroom's right by the sliding door. We take the EMS program, takes up the whole basement of the building. So everything, as long as you've made it that far, you'll figure out pretty easily where to go. Otherwise, if you don't have anything for me, thank you for your attending the first night. Hopefully everybody did. And I will see you guys Tuesday or Thursday night for Skills Lab. Otherwise, have a great night, and I look forward to this semester with you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rudy.